Hello, and welcome to this webinar on how to create surveys or forms with Testable. Just to let you know that this webinar assumes that you already know how to use Testable to create projects, to create experiments. So I will not go through the basics of what a trial file is, what a project is, how you should sign up for Testable, and so on. So I will jump straight in. Because we only have 30 minutes to demonstrate everything. Well, that should be fast, but nevertheless. So I hope you can see my screen. And actually, it's better if I share everything. So just 1 second, my whole desktop, so that you can see also the documents with which I'm working, the trial file document. So I'm just going to share the desktop. Okay, that should be fine. Okay, so when we want to create a new survey, we go with the new project. We're going to click on new projects here. All right. So that creates a new project. We have to give it a name. Let's say demonstration project or demonstration survey, demo survey. We can choose the options that we want to enable. Let's make as few of them enabled as possible so that we move fast. Okay, we save the project. And then the most important thing follows. We have to create a trial file, and we have to upload the trial file, which is the backbone to any testable experiment, any testable survey. So first, let me just switch this on, make it active so that we get a link and we can check the experiment, how it looks like. So that's going to be the link. And now let's create the trial file. So I'm going to delete all of this. I was working on a trial file for the survey, but let's start from scratch. So the only required column in the trial file is the type, and we have to define it. So for survey trials, for form trials, we have to have form here. So that's how Testable knows that, okay, I want to generate a form. And then we have two columns in which we can write the text of our questions. The first one is head, and the other one is body. So that's the head of the question, that's the body of the question. You may need only, or in most cases, probably you only need the head of the question. Body is in lower fonts, and it includes additional description about the question if you need something. So let's say this is my first question. So we have this text here, okay? And then you need to define the response type, how you'd like the participants to be able to respond. And here we have several options for the surveys, pretty much all the options that you find with everything else that is available out there. Let's start with something very simple. Let's say a box. So it's a simple input box, and that's it. So only of that you can already start a form. So you need to save that as a CSV file. Okay, the name doesn't matter because it's going to be renamed. So we're going to save this and then upload it to the trial file. Here it goes. You see the warning, the trial file is missing. That's going to disappear the moment we upload it. And now we can check the survey at this link. Okay, and you'll see how it looks like. That's it. This is my first question. So I only have one question here, and that's a box where I can type in any answer. I click finish, and that's it. The results are saved. Okay. So now let's see everything that we can do with the forms in Testable. So we have other response types, such as comments. So in this case, I'm just going to repeat that. Well, it's going to read everything like everywhere, like this is my first question. Let's say this is another question. At least we change this. Okay, and then here we have comment. Let's also type in something here in the body so that you see how it looks like. This is an additional description. Okay, so we have that. We can also have stars. So I'm just gonna copy and paste some of these trials here so that it's faster. So we can have stars as responses. We can have ranking, but in case we are asked to rank something, we have to also provide the options for the ranking, right? So the options are specified in response options. So in this case, let's say we have option 1, option 2, option 3. Okay, then we can also have radio buttons, and then you have to type in radio. Again, let's keep the same options, option 1, option 2, option 3. We can have checkboxes, so multiple selections. Again, the same options. And we can also have drop-down menu. Let's copy this. Drop down. Okay, and also the slider. And then we're gonna spend a bit of time on the slider to see how we can define the slider. For now, let's just leave it like that with the slider. And let's illustrate all these options. So I saved the trial file. I'm gonna re-upload it. And then I can access again the experiment from here. Well, I'm just hoping that this one finished. Let's see. Okay, so this is the box, this is the comment, these are the stars. Let's give it 5 stars. This is the ranking option. So I have the options here and I can move them around, sorting them in the order that I want. Then I have the radio buttons. Then I have the checkboxes, the drop-down menu, and the slider. And these are the default options for the slider. So from 0 to 100 in steps of 1. Okay. So now let's see some of the options that we can customize here for all these questions. So for radio buttons, for check boxes, for the drop-down menu, we can use response options to specify the available options. We can also add to that, let's say for the radio button here, we can add an extra option. So we have something that is called response other. Because sometimes you don't know all the options that are available. You want to leave the participants the possibility to supply their own answer, right? So in this case, you give it a label. Let's say select something else. Okay, and you'll see how this looks like for the radio buttons. Okay, then another thing that you can do is to randomize the options that are available. So you don't want to present them in a certain order, but you want to have them randomized. So you can use response options random, and you just need to mark the options that you want to be randomized. So let's say for the checkboxes in this case, and for the drop-down, okay? So some of the other options refer to the slider. So the slider, you can customize the slider like that. So let's make another trial and have here response options. That's where we can define the minimum, the maximum, and the step that we use for the slider. So let's say we want a Likert scale from 1 to 7 in steps of 1. We don't need to specify that. If we don't specify it, that's the default steps of 1. If we want to, then we need to specify. Let's say steps of 2 in this case. So for this one here, I'm going to show you how it looks like. Again, save the trial file, re-upload it. And then when I access the experiment, you can see everything that that we defined. So we have the first trials that we've seen, okay? And look here, we have this option extra, select something else. That's the one that we define. The moment the participant clicks on that, it gives the participant the possibility to type in something here. Not in the list, let's say, whatever I want to type in. So that's the purpose of the response other box, okay? Then for the checkboxes, we selected the order to be randomized, and you see that they are in a random order here, as well here, a different random order for the options in the drop-down menu. And for the slider, we had a slider from 1 to 7 in steps of 2. So if I moved it, you'll see it go to 3, 5, and then 7. Okay, pretty much straightforward. Let's finish with the slider, because here we have some additional options, and I want to show you this. We have different labels that we can use with the slider in order to customize the starting position, in order to customize the grid, whether you show the minimum, the maximum, and so on. So all these labels can be added with a semicolon here. So we can say hide mean and max. That's going to hide the beginning and the end of the slider. We can say hide grid. That's going to hide the numbers that appear below the scale. I can also hide the starting position, so hide start. And I can hide the number that appears at the top of the cursor when I move the cursor. All these options are available for you to check in the manual here. So let's go to see the labels that are available for the slider. So here we have all these labels, the flags. So hide start, hide min max, hide grid, and hide value. Okay. All right. So let's put all of them here, and then you will see how the slider looks like. We can also specify the starting position here. So let's say I want this scale to start at 5, and that's how we specify it. Yeah. So let's illustrate. And then we re-upload. And we see the new slider. Okay, so I can click anywhere. There is no cursor, nothing, but I can still click here to select my option. That's 3, that's 5, that's 7. But I don't see the starting position. I don't see the end position. I don't see the grid below, and so on. Okay, and then if I press on finish, everything is going to be saved. So these are the types of responses that you can create with the forms in Testable. Not only that, you can also have questions that have multiple rows or multiple dimensions that you want your participants to rate. So let's say we have a question, something like, please rate this cat. I don't know if it makes sense, but let's go with that. And then we specify different response rows, different attributes on which we want to rate the cat, or to provide some answers about the cat. We can say, I don't know, in furriness, weight, height, color, let's say, something like that, okay? And then we can have response rows for all the options. And then you'll see how these appear. Okay. And the slider as well here. And you'll see what I mean by the response rows. Okay, we re-upload the CSV file. And then we have the new experiment. So this is the question, please rate the cat. And then we have these dimensions, furriness, weight, height, and color. And you see, you don't need to define 4 different response boxes here, because the program automatically does that for you. So you have a response type box, but you have 4 dimensions, 4 rows, So we include 4 boxes. You can provide a response for every dimension, for the box, for the comment, for the stars, ranking, the options that are available. For radio buttons, that's how it looks like. So now we have option 1, option 2, option 3, and something else. You can only select 1 per each dimension, obviously. For the checkboxes, you can select multiple, and so on. Then we have 4 drop-down lists for each dimension, and the same 4 scales, 4 sliders, 1 per dimension here. Okay, so that's another thing that you can do. Also, you can very easily add pictures, images to the surveys that you are creating. And you do that using the same column that you use for the experiments. So you use STEAM1 and the STEAM format. So if here I'm going to add something like image 1, and the format is JPEG, let's say, then I'm going to see an image under the question, but before the response type. So here it should be a picture of a cat, which I haven't prepared yet, but I will try to upload another picture. Let's get rid of this for now, just to show you the basics first. So let's put image 1 cat everywhere. Okay, I'm going to save this. Then re-upload. Now I'm going to get a warning that image 1 JPEG is missing. I'm going to try to find the image 1 JPEG very quickly in my computer and drag it here. Let's see. Okay, so maybe something like that would do. No. Okay. The second, it's best if that's not the right format and it's in the trial file. So let me select from a quick project here one of the default images that we have available in Testable. So very quickly, downloading this picture, save link as image 1 in downloads. Okay, and now it should be available for upload. And we go to our demo survey. We go into stimuli because that's where we need to upload the stimuli. And now we just drag it here. Okay, so now no more warning and the survey should work. So this is the first question. Please rate this cat. Well, assume there is a cat there. We have this image, image 1, and then we have the response box. Then the next question with the comment as the option, then we have to rate something, then we have the ranking and so on. So you see there is this image added between the question and the response type. Not only that, we can add multiple images, okay? So we can have here image 2 as well. I'm just going to duplicate that for simplicity. But obviously you can have another image there. So now if I upload this file into trial file, okay, then I'm going to see 2 images, and I will have response types for every image. That's again a default setting that we have on Testable. So you see 2 images side by side, and then 1 response box for first image and another response box for the second image. And it's the same for all the responses that we have here. Stars for each one of the images, ranking for each one of the images, and so on for radio buttons, checkboxes for all the responses. Also for the sliders, you see that the sliders, they tend to shrink when I have multiple images, so you have to also consider that. They will be the size of the image. Okay. We can also have response rows for an image or with an image. So I'm going to illustrate only for the first two because it's easy. Let's say just row 1, row 2, row 3, and here row 1, row 2, row 3. Let's get this with only one image. And then I'm going to show you for the stars only how it looks with 2 images. And then we cover pretty much everything. You can see how complex the surveys can be. Okay. Hopefully that would cover most of the situations that you would want to cover with a survey. So now we have image, and then we have the 3 dimensions. Okay. We have the image, and we have the 3 dimensions and 1 comment for each dimension. Then this is the question with 2 images. If you remember the first image, then we have 3 rows for the stars here, and then we have the second image and 3 rows for the stars as well here. Okay. All right. So that's about it about the surveys, the types of questions that you can have. Everything that regards the workflow of the experiment, of the study in Testable applies also to surveys. So you can also have logic here and branching. So you can use the columns if and then to specify the conditions and the actions to be taken when the condition is fulfilled or not. If you don't know about this, watch the other webinars in which we discuss the branching and the logic options. You can also have randomization of the trials. So you can use column random and mark the trials that you want randomized. You can do the same with the random block, with random picks. So you can use all the columns related to the workflow that appear in Testable. You can check these columns in the manual. I'm not going to cover them here in detail because they are not specific to the surveys, but they do apply here as well. I will cover something else that is specific to the surveys, and that's the ability to separate the questions in different pages, right? Because if you have many, many questions, maybe you don't want them to present on the same screen. You want them to be split among several screens. So to use that, to do that, you have a column that is called page break. And you simply mark where you want the current screen to end. So if I have something like that, you can type in anything here. I just put 1 for simplicity. So these questions will appear on one screen, then these questions on the next screen, and the last 3 questions on another screen. Okay. With every page break, or with every page, every screen, you can define also a page name. And this one you specify usually in the first trial. So let's say page 1. Then you can specify page 2 here, and you can specify page 3 here. As well, you can customize the button that appears at the end of each page. By default, it's going to be next, or it's going to be finish if it's the last question, but you can customize that with column button 1. So let's say this is the last question from this page, and I want to say here, go to page 2. And here I want to say, go to page 3. And for the last trial, I want to say done. So I can do that. So let's illustrate how this looks like. So if I upload the trial file, okay, and re-access the experiment. You see the name of the page, page 1. I have the questions that are selected to appear on this page. Then I have the button, go to page 2. Then I have the name of the page 2. The questions, go to page 3. This is page 3, the last questions, and then I have done, and the experiment is done. Okay. Another thing that you can do with survey questions is to have required responses. So participants cannot advance unless they respond, they provide an answer to the questions. So if I put here 1 and 1, that means that these questions are required. Let's get rid of all the different rows so that it's easier to follow. But it equally applies to the case when you have rows. So let's mark these two questions with ones. And also let's add a separator between the questions. That's a simple horizontal line to make the questions more distinct. So let's illustrate that as well. Re-upload, trial file. And re-access the link. Okay, so now if I press on go to page 2, you need to fill in all required answers first. And here it looks like that's required. So I have to type in something here and that's required. And if I do that, then I can move to the next one. And note also the separator between the questions. Let's reload the first page. You see here a line, very thin line between the questions. You may want to add that or not, but that's available if you want to do it. So that's about it about the surveys and the forms, how you can create them in Testable. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. You can use our help center. You can use our help widget. You can email us at contact@testable.org. Thanks a lot for watching, and I hope you register for the other seminars as well. Bye-bye.